During the pandemic, the government gave out billions of dollars in loans to businesses with very little oversight in the Paycheck Protection Program. It turns out that not having very much oversight leads to a lot of fraud. I know, who would have figured, right? Who would have known? Now, look, the program was meant to try to protect people's jobs and allowed companies to apply for these loans, which would then be forgiven if the companies didn't fire people. Why do that instead of paying everybody at least $2,000 a month in stimulus payments to stay home? I'll never understand. I mean, they would rather funnel this money through corporations and through applications and millions, actually billions of dollars in loans, instead of just pay people to stay home for a few months. I mean, it really does show you how broken of a country we are. Nonetheless, right, this led to fraudsters jumping into this and stealing billions of dollars and using it to buy luxury cars, mansions, private jets, flights, and fancy vacations, of course. So now, how much money was stolen? Experts say that the theft could be as much as $80 billion, or about 10% of the $800 billion put to that program. That's on top of the $90 billion to $400 billion believed to have been stolen from the $900 billion COVID unemployment relief program, which, by the way, now here's the thing. There are reports where you had certain states, and I forget which state it was, that accidentally overpaid people for unemployment benefits. Now, these are people that were honest. There was no fraud there. They just said, look, we lost our job due to COVID, and they got unemployment benefits. And then the state sent them too much. That same state is now saying, oh, by the way, you have to pay that back now. But wait a minute. You gave us that money. You messed up. It was your mistake. We thought that we were getting extra money in order to help us out because we legitimately signed up. We didn't lie or fabricate anything on our application. And yet still, now you're asking us to pay back this money that we thought was ours legitimately. And in some cases, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And normal people are now on the hook. And yet, of course, here you have this massive amount of fraud. Well, they're not getting a lot of this money back. Now, so let me go into that, right? So now, half of that money, by the way, for unemployment, allegedly taken by international fraudsters. As NBC News reported last year, and another $80 billion potentially taken from a separate COVID disaster relief program. Most of those losses are considered unrecoverable. Unrecoverable. So that's why they're going after regular people, by the way, because those are the ones that are recoverable, apparently. All right. Now, Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who oversees COVID relief spending, told NBC Night News anchor Lester Holt in an interview that COVID relief programs were structured in ways that made them ripe for this kind of abuse. In fact, the SBA, he said, in sending that money out, basically said to people, apply and sign and tell us that you're really entitled to money. And of course, for fraudsters, that's an invitation. What didn't happen was even minimal checks to make sure that the money was getting to the right people at the right time. Now, remember, this was started under the Trump administration, who didn't believe in oversight. And so, yeah, they basically said, we're going to get this out as fast as possible to these businesses, but we're going to sit on the stimulus checks, of course. But we're going to send this out to businesses, corporations, as fast as possible. And you're not surprised that some people will take advantage of this to get free money? Now, experts say that millions of borrowers inflated their numbers of employees or created companies just out of whole cloth that didn't actually exist. And for much of 2020, the lenders of this money did very little to verify applications, prosecutors and experts say, in part because Congress required the SBA, which ran the program, to issue explicit guidance that in the interest of getting the money out fast, lenders will be harmless for borrowers' failure to comply with program criteria. So basically, man, we're just going to throw this money out. You say you got a business, here you go. Have all this money. Now, that's despite numerous warnings by the Government Accountability Office. The program was ripe with fraud, and yet they continued to make loans. Go ahead. Here you go. In fact, according to Haywood Telco, CEO for government at LexisNexis Risk Solutions, which works with the government to verify identity, said, quote, the government spent approximately $800 billion and provided 21 million loans to individuals. The basic scheme was really simple. People went on state websites, took the names of existing businesses, or registered new fake ones. There's absolutely no security on there. There's no validation of any information. And voila, you have company ABC with 40 employees and a payroll of $10 million. And you go and apply for a PPP loan. It was a piece of cake. And in one case, they had found that a phone number for a gas station in Houston was used for 150 loan applications. Jesus. Now, I'm not going to surprise you here by pointing out one of the states with the most fraud. Florida. Florida, big surprise. Shocker. All right, so now Miami DA Juan Gonzalez of the Southern District of Florida said he had seen a lot of fraud in Florida, including billions stolen from the federal Medicare program. You can thank Rick Scott for some of that. But he said that he had never seen so much get stolen so quickly. Wow. Now, look, he said what sucks about this is that unlike unemployment, which went to every person who was qualified, lenders had to stop making PPP loans when the money ran out, even though there was demand. And so, look, at the end of the day, the fraud didn't just harm the taxpayer, didn't just steal taxpayer money. It actually hurt people, legitimate businesses who did need the money, but went to apply, and there was none left. Again, there were plenty of small businesses that were in desperate need, that had a legitimate need for the money, that were not lying on those applications. But since the money was gone from the crooks, and that includes, by the way, big corporations who got on this and took that money, even though they didn't fit the criteria, there was no oversight. These giant corporations took that money too, leaving none for actual people that need it. So now let me give you some examples of some of the more prolific small fraudsters, like David Hines. David Hines, 29 of Miami, admitted to a fraud scheme that netted him $3.9 million. According to his guilty plea, Hines, who said in court papers that he struggled with addiction, bought a $318,000 Lamborghini Huracan and also spent thousands in luxury hotels, jewelry, clothing, and dating sites. Fun. Also in Miami, a man and a woman admitted to a complex scheme in which, among other things, they claimed they were operating farms in the middle of a city out of single-family homes. There were no farms. The farms were fake farms. In another Florida case, prosecutors charged a man that they say he used proceeds from a $7.2 million emergency loan to buy a 12,579 square foot mansion, a Lincoln Navigator, a Maserati, and a Mercedes-Benz. I need that emergency Mercedes, guys. A California couple were also convicted in June of stealing $18 million, of which they bought 3 houses, diamonds, gold coins, luxury watches, expensive furniture, and other valuables, prosecutors said. And just as they were about to be sentenced, they fled. They cut off their ankle bracelets, ran off, left their kids behind, and ran to Montenegro. He just left the kids. Hey, kid, you're on your own. Here, take some money. Yeah, here's $100. Go fuck off. Parent of the year. Holy shit. Just let the kids. They were captured back in February. The man was sentenced to 17 years in prison and his wife 6 years. Wow. Now what's interesting about this is that these people, and it really does show the disparities in the U.S. justice system when it comes to crime, but also financial crime. See, none of these people were held in jail before their sentencing. They weren't held in pretrial detention. They were able to bond out. Either that or they just, oh, you're not a flight risk. You're white and you made financial crimes. But if you compare that to, like, I don't know, stealing a candy bar from a store, right? Petty crimes, having a fake $20 bill. Can you think of any stories where somebody might have had, a fake 20, getting in trouble? Oh, yeah, that's right. George Floyd, who was murdered over it. Eric Garner, murdered over selling loose cigarettes. Technically, I guess, a crime. No, people go to prison for very, very small amounts of money, of theft, right? They can't bond out. No, they can't do that. But if you steal millions of dollars from the government, defraud the taxpayer, well, then you don't even go to jail waiting for your sentence. Two-tier justice system in this country. I mean, you steal millions of dollars. Who cares? Defraud the taxpayer all you want. But, like, no. You do a small petty crime, you could die. That's insane. This is the country that we live in. There's more. Washington, D.C. resident Elias Eldabaugh, who appears to have no criminal record, was charged last summer with trying to steal $17 million from PPP and another program. According to his LinkedIn page, he earned a degree in computer engineering from California State, Sacramento, and has worked in various tech jobs, so he's a tech bro. Among the property prosecutors seized was a Tesla Model 3. He had been released on his own recognizances as he awaited trial, but guess what? He decided to defraud a bank. A bank. Hey, he was out on his own recognizances. Totally fine. Oops, defrauded a bank. What are you going to do? But at least he's not a black guy selling Lucy's. Those are the most dangerous people. There's more. Danielle Miller. Super brazen about this, by the way. Her charging documents say that she stole identifying information from Massachusetts state website and used the information to apply for COVID relief funds. In 40 minutes, she had received about $100,000 in taxpayer money. Not very much, but court documents say that she soon booked a private jet from Florida to California, where she spent $5,500 at a luxury hotel in West Hollywood. And she decided, like all smart criminals do, to post that trip to her Instagram, her 34,000 Instagram followers. Miller's criminal record includes arrests in 5 different states, many of which were related to larceny and identity-related fraud, the complaint in the case says. She even participated in a recent profile in New York Magazine that portrayed her as a child of wealthy Manhattan parents whose life was derailed by the circulation of an explicit video when she was young. She said this in the magazine. This is a quote. Honestly, I more so consider myself a con artist than anything. You know how they have that saying that you can sell ice to an Eskimo? There's something that I want. If there's something that I want, I'm getting it. Hines got 6 years in prison. The fraudulent farmers got 18 and 30 months, respectively. But the vast majority of people who stole from this program, millions of dollars, billions in total, they're never going to find them. They're never going to find them. Prosecutors and government officials, they're like, look, I don't think we're ever going to find all the fraud. Honestly, here's what Gonzalez said, quote, I think there's going to be a percentage that we probably will never catch. But we're working as hard as we can to catch as many as we can. And of course, they cited the fact that they don't have funding to be able to. The departments don't actually have funding to go after these high-level financial crimes. And so, of course, and that's a problem all across the United States, right? They don't go after rich people. They don't go after high-dollar crime. What they do is that they go after the low-level crime, the lowest-level people, the ones who are the most powerless to fight back because they don't have the resources. That's a sad state in this country. Very, very sad state of this country. In fact, only about 178 people have been convicted so far in PPP fraud. This is according to the Justice Department. They say that more prosecutions are coming, but they admit that it's only going to be a small fraction of the total fraud. Now, how is this allowed to happen? I mentioned it earlier. Talco also mentions it. He says, look, they could have prevented this, the government and the lenders, but the Trump administration said, no, we got to get it out fast. In fact, Talco said he spoke to Larry Kudlow, then the top economic advisor to President Trump, and said, quote, I explained to him that this was going to be the biggest fraud in the history of our country. And then I was told that you can either have speed or you can have security. And that they'd rather just have speed. Well, I mean, that's what it is. That's what they did. We'd rather have speed in getting the money out to corporations, i.e. our donors, than actually have security to prevent people from stealing billions of dollars in taxpayer money. Talco said he told Kudlow that banks do have that ability to rapidly identify customers, but they didn't. They didn't. Kudlow, unsurprisingly, did not respond to requests from comment. Now, there was an official who works on COVID relief, but was not authorized to speak publicly, acknowledged that Talco was correct, saying that in the early stages of the loan program, he said there were few controls, but it didn't have to be that way. I agree, he said, that the notion that you had to sacrifice certainty for speed is categorically false. So this was not an oversight. No, this was the administration saying, yeah, of course this is ripe for fraud, but we don't care. We don't give a shit. We're just going to put this out there. And if they're going to steal the money, they're going to steal the money. Not my problem. Not my problem. That's all they think of our government as. Just a vending machine for money. That's it. Hey, you give us money. We're rich. Our donors say, we want the money now. And they say, yes, sir. Yeah, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. We're going to give you all the money that you want. A little oversight? Go ahead. Big corporations dip in? Absolutely. Yes. Does it make way for small-time fraudsters? Yes. By the way, they're the ones that are getting caught, are getting in trouble. But the billion-dollar companies that also dipped into this, nobody's going to touch them. Nobody's going to touch them. America in a nutshell, where the rich get richer by defrauding everyone else.